He puts the work in network. He brings unity to the community. He runs events. Let's cut the suspense, Mr. Brendan Goleby.
Well done. Thanks for having me.
I feel like I need an audience like clapping. Brendan. There we go. Just trying to hype you up there. How are you, my good man?
You've done well. I'm very well.
I notice you have a tinge of ginger hair. Shout out to fellow redheads. We love that.
There's probably more than a tinge there. I think I'm definitely in the club. So
I love that, man.
Let's go.
I drink from skulls, drink from the skulls of my enemies.
Well, for the benefit of all the skull drinkers and skull takers all across the lands, who is Brendan Goleby and what do you do?
So I guess to a certain degree, my biggest claim to fame is sort of the network that I've built on LinkedIn. Just a guy who lives in Toowoomba, Queensland, Australia, who I guess has eaten the business networking pill and really enjoys bringing people together and watching the magic that then comes from that. So
love that, man. And you've founded, talk a bit about the groups and the businesses that you've founded. I just love it.
Yeah, so I guess over the years, my journey started back in 2013 when I really started to sort of get deep into the LinkedIn infrastructure. And, at the time I built a group which we, generically called Toowoomba Queensland Community. And it was really just an opportunity for people to connect, meet new people. And at the time, it was just sort of like, does anyone want to have a coffee with me on Friday? And 30 people turned up. And I'm like, okay, this is a bit weird. The next month we did it again and 60 people turned up. And then in the third month, we had over 130 people. And then the coffee shops were like, mate, you can't have 130 people for coffee. So we had to change the format a bit. But so that sort of spearheaded, me purchasing the domain for the local town that I'm in, which is toowoomba.com.au. It spearheaded a business group that I created, like a fortnightly breakfast for business owners called Toowoomba Business Partners. And then, it all sort of migrated from there.
That's awesome, man. And so, humble beginnings grew very quickly, turned into a network, a community, a second family, I'm guessing here. What are some of the things that you've seen that, you've put this great group together? Like, talk about what else sort of comes from that?
I guess the biggest thing that I didn't realize, I sort of shot myself down a bit of a rabbit hole building the network and then trying to find ways to create visibility with a lot more people locally. And obviously my target and specific people I was originally looking for was business owners. And then everyone else sort of popped onto the bandwagon as well. It was really a leap of faith to a certain degree because I put 3 or 4 hours a day into it for nearly 12 months.
Wow.
And I wasn't really too sure what the outcome was going to look like. But looking back on that time, it just created so much personal brand for me. It created a very, I guess, what I like to call geographical influence.
Yeah.
So if you ask people in Toowoomba who Brendan is, there's a 90% chance they'll know who you're talking about. And it was that geographical influence. And then a couple of years later, what really started to, I guess, stick really well around that was that, visibility created the opportunity. And businesses, doesn't matter where they are, if nobody knows you exist or what you do, the chances of you actually doing business is quite low. If you find yourself, getting into a lot of extra circles, the more visibility you can create, whether it's one-on-one or whether it's socially or brand awareness wise, the opportunity will just start to flow because you create that top of mind awareness.
Super powerful. And I'll shift gears a little bit here. We have a lot of viewers that are, they've got their own business. They are looking for ways to generate leads. They're looking for ways to build relationships, or maybe they don't even know how to do it. But one thing that sticks out is that for people that are trying to get into business to business type arrangements, this would probably be arguably one of the most powerful, most successful ways that you could generate business as a byproduct. Is that right?
I mean, I think, whether it's, business networking as an attendee or, business networking as the event organizer, obviously the event organizer's definitely got the biggest advantage because they've got reasons to talk to everyone that's coming.
Yeah.
But I think overall it's a great opportunity just to, have some deeper conversations with everyone from all different industries.
One thing you mentioned just before was that you didn't really have an end goal in terms of, I'm going to turn this thing into a money-making machine, or I'm going to do this because I'm going to get this out of it. You saw the power and you just wanted to build something from what I took. Whether it worked or didn't, that wasn't the goal. It was to build something and have a bit of an impact. And the byproduct from that has been super powerful. You are 100% correct that I would say arguably 90, maybe even more percent, 90, 95% of people in Toowoomba know who you are. If you ever wanted a job opportunity, I'm sure you get dozens thrown at you every week. Just the benefits that I've seen from it have been pretty cool to watch.
You don't really know what the benefits you're creating until afterwards. And I think that's the big thing. And my story is that 2 years after sort of creating the LinkedIn group, I took a redundancy from the business that I was working for. I walked upstairs on a Friday afternoon at 4:00, updated my LinkedIn profile. And at the time I had about 10,000 connections, and I just said, looking for my next opportunity. And then my phone rang solid for the next hour. And, the ability to be able to create that sort of awareness so quickly was, I don't know another platform to a certain degree that you could do that with. And that was, to a certain degree, it was my insurance policy. I'd inadvertently create an insurance policy that says, if I need a new job, I've got somewhere that I can update.
Yeah.
Because of all the work that I'd put in the prior 2 years.
Yeah, I love that. Let's focus a little bit on LinkedIn just now that it's sort of out in the open. I don't do much on it. I know how powerful it can be. That's why I'm talking to you about it. So talk to me about, anything you want to share about LinkedIn, how you sort of built your online brand using LinkedIn as one part of it anyway.
So I guess to a certain degree, the advice that I give around LinkedIn is that it's really just a Refidex on steroids.
Nice.
If you sort of have the ability to say, look, my target market is a particular, it could be business owners or it could be a particular industry. LinkedIn in Toowoomba over the last sort of 10 years has gone from 20,000 people on it to, 50 to 60,000 people on it. So we've seen massive growth in it. And I think predominantly because of all the stuff that I've been doing around it and, some of the training I've been doing for people on LinkedIn. But I guess it's really an opportunity for people to get out there and actually start to engage with their target audience.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily about connecting directly to someone to sell them something. The opportunity is really an opportunity for them to get to know you via your content rather than you trying to sell through, direct messages or things like that.
Yeah, great. How long ago did you get started on LinkedIn?
I've probably been on LinkedIn now for, if I had to have a guess, it'd be maybe 15 years or so. But when did you, if you said, when did I actually shift it into first gear, second gear, third gear, it would be about 2013 to 2015 was probably my biggest surge on LinkedIn. I basically figured out every single way to break it. I found out different, where the opportunities were to grow. I had to manage that growth quite heavily. And I was very lucky. I actually had some coaching by a lady within LinkedIn directly in Sydney that I caught up with about 6 times within that 12 months for one-on-one mentoring. So I was very lucky to have that, I guess, shoulder to lean on and really start to get, I guess, push the card into top gear.
That's humble of you to say, luck, because you created that. You went all in with it. You saw an opportunity, and lo and behold, one came to you, and you took it with both hands to really hone in the skill and master the art and build a network of influence. So I think it's pretty cool, man.
I think there's a lot to be said for the creation of geographical influence and how that then generates into sales, because you essentially have an opportunity where you're essentially a warm connection to someone rather than, a cold connection to someone when you actually go through the sales process.
Yeah, I love that. And have you the way I've sort of see it is you've kind of done a little bit of new age stuff with LinkedIn, online posting, putting yourself out there, good content, and then mixing it with some old school stuff to make this killer 2022, 2023 strategy where you really do go with value in mind so that the sale sort of comes as a byproduct of it later. Is that something you like? What industries do you think this could be beneficial for?
I mean, my background is from about 2015 to 2019. I was actually in the automotive industry. I did exceptionally well in that world around sort of fleet sales and things like that because I was dealing with business owners day to day.
Gotcha.
Through my network, but also through my day-to-day job. It was definitely something where people would pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Brennan, can you organize another 10 cars for me?" And they knew me, like they knew who I was. They, to a certain degree, a lot of them had never met me in person, but they'd actually met me through my content.
Yeah.
And that was where they sort of, I guess, to a certain degree, felt like they did know me. I then went on to work in the house, like working for a builder in the house sales world. And in that world, it was just amazing. Like people would walk in the door not knowing technically that I was there. And they'd go, "Oh, hey, Brendan, I didn't know you were here." And suddenly the conversation's warm. And obviously we go through the process from there.
Yeah.
And to date, I still hold the Toowoomba record for the most number of house sales in a 12-month period for any builder historically. And 166 sales in 12 months. And I think that one will be a hard one to beat.
That's awesome, man. What's that one every?
It's over 3 a week. So
That's amazing.
yeah, it's a big effort.
Yeah. Interestingly, I know a handful of companies they'd have 5 people who couldn't do that, which is not bagging them out, but that's just to really put it in perspective of, and then it's a big sale. It's one of the biggest purchases a person can ever make. Hot chooks down at the supermarket. It's pretty awesome, man.
It's definitely a skill set that you have to, really put your time and effort into to learn. But my biggest takeaway from that industry is that a lot of people just needed education before they need to be sold to. If you were the guy that says, "Hey, let's sit down and let me show you how to do it properly," and then we'll talk about whether I can sell you or whether with the right product, it's a totally different sales conversation. And it was a conversation that nobody else was having. And that was probably my biggest success.
That's something I think everyone can take some nuggets from, is that whether it's online, offline, anywhere really, to really focus on building your brand, building your community. It's not for the immediate effect. You're not going to get a sale straight away. You probably will, but you shouldn't set the expectation that it's going to pay off right now. But the byproduct will be in 3, 6, and 12 months is when someone needs the thing that you have: cars, real estate, new home, marketing, whatever the thing is. If you're going up against someone who they've never met, they have no idea who they are, versus someone who they feel like they already know, like you mentioned, it's a completely different sales conversation. And that's something everyone can do. Just some tips for people. Like what would you do if you were starting out again on LinkedIn or on socials?
I think my biggest piece of advice on LinkedIn is to really sit down and put an effort in every day. And it only needs to be 10 minutes, but you've got to do it every day. And reach out to, it could be 20 or 30 people a day on LinkedIn. You're going to find that half of them are going to connect with you probably within the following week. And then the other half, a certain portion of those will connect and a certain portion will never connect. But if you look at that over a 12-month period, that's where you start to get your growth around your connections. But there's 3 sides to LinkedIn. Connections is only one side. Content is the second side. And the third side of it is really about how you interact and how you create visibility in other ways on LinkedIn. So whether it's direct messaging, whether it's commenting, whether it's liking, whether it's sharing other people's content, it's really about being being social on the actual social network that you're on, and not just posting and walking away. The value and where you'll get the most amount of reach is actually more in the comments than it is anywhere else.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then in terms of consistency, what are you typically posting? How do you keep people engaged?
Yeah, so I think depending on, sort of what your strategy is around that, I think it's really about having a mixture of content that's around something that adds value to the community, or whether it's, some sort of piece of knowledge that you want to share. I think anything around education works well. The other thing that I totally believe works well is actually promoting other people.
Yeah.
That's where I sort of could see the algorithm start to change very heavily when people were actually having good conversations with other people and not necessarily promoting their own things. But the side effect is that when you're promoting someone else, you actually are promoting yourself at the same time, but not physically.
Yeah, indirectly. I love that. Let's I want to sort of talk about. I get hit up quite a lot for lead gen. Obviously, that's what we do. But guys want commercial opportunities. So roofers, insurance agents, realtors, things like that. They want to market in the B2B space, and it's not great for Facebook. We can do it. We do okay with it, but something along the lines of LinkedIn and events is really what I've seen the best wins from. So I guess my question to you would be like, if you were a roofer or home improvement, and I know you've got guys in your networking community that do sort of focus in the trades, how would you use either LinkedIn or an event to grow the business? It's not going to be today or tomorrow, but like, how would you do that as a long-term approach?
I think the biggest opportunity for when you're going in the B2B path is the biggest opportunity is about creating a good network of people around you, who are then advocates for your business to all the people that they know. It's about scaling that sort of spider web of people, I guess. Your first level connections are the people that are advocates for you, but your second level connections are the people that those people know that you may not directly know yourself. And I think that's the biggest opportunity moving forward, is having a whole bunch of advocates around you that, given the right barbecue or something like that they say, hey, I'm looking for a roofer, who would you recommend? Yeah. That you're the name that slips out of their mouth, because it's all about top of mind awareness at the right time for that. On the flip side of it, it's about, what sort of content can you create to remain top of mind for those people, so that when they do have a hailstorm or some sort of event, that you're the trusted person within that industry that they can go to. So, and obviously there's a lot of social proof around that, which I'm sure you're aware of.
Let's get a bit more granular. Let's say I'm a roofer. I got a great accent, but let's say I'm a roofer. I want to connect with insurance agents and, realtors and people of influence who have my customers. They're already trusted by the end user, the homeowner who's been hit with a hailstorm or whatever. What would be a good approach for me if I know I wanted to build like strategic alliances? How would you do it?
I mean, LinkedIn is a great way to be able to specifically find those people on LinkedIn, and then it's a process of actually interacting with those people that your clients see before they come to you, or those are the particular trusted people in the network who are actually going to be pointing fingers back at you and saying, hey, this is the guy that you need to go and see. He'll fix your problem for you. And I guess to a certain degree, you would want to be known by every real estate agent in your geographical area that you deal with. Every insurance agent in that geographical area, you want them to know who you are and what you do. Yeah. And then continue to build that network of people that have the likelihood of referring to you, but also, at the end of the day, just continue to build your geographical influence within your geographical area. So if wherever you live and wherever you work, you want to be just continually connecting with people. Some of them may be relevant short term, some of them may be relevant long term. I guess my strategy is always to, try and connect with the connectors first, so the people who are very well connected, and then sort of work your way backwards from that.
I'm going to sort of focus a little bit on events. You've thrown quite a lot of them over the years. You've had small numbers, you've had big numbers, and everything in between. Done free ones, paid ones, again, sort of you've got a great exposure to a broad range of events. So I just want to talk about like the good, the bad, and the ugly, what you've liked, what you haven't, what you'd do differently.
I guess if you look at the good side of it, the biggest advantage I find with events, and specifically being the event organizer, is that you get a great opportunity to talk to everyone who's coming to the event. A lot of them, I talk to them prior to coming to the event, during the event, and then after the event. And the biggest thing for me, the advantage of the good side of it, is that I get to have some really great conversations. And to a certain degree, I'm probably the only person in the room that everybody in the room knows who I am, whereas everyone else sort of walks into that room and there's such a room of people that they don't know. So that's probably the good side of it. Yeah. If we talk about the bad side of it, I guess sometimes with events, and you've got to sort of put it to the side, is that sometimes the commercial aspect of the events and the amount of time you put into it to the immediate return on it can be can be pretty ordinary,
Yeah.
depending on the style of the event and what you're trying to achieve. I always put it out as it's good karma. It's sort of one of those things that things will come back in the future. And I can definitely look back and say that's definitely what's happened.
Yeah.
You know, the event is something that you've really got to put some structure to, some strategy to. You know, over time, you sort of get to know, you know, what event places are really good to deal with, which ones aren't, which ones are flexible, which ones aren't. And then you sort of get to a point where you can start to pick and choose where you want to have the events, who you want to support in the event industry, you know, what venues your attendees like, you know, what the food quality is like, where's the good parking. There's a whole heap of things that, so I guess, come into, you know, creating that really good event. And it's, you know, I guess trying to tick off as many boxes as those as you possibly can as you go through it.
Yep.
The ugly, you know, there's certain times before the events that, you know, I'll have people still chasing tickets. You know, I think the record currently is 11 o'clock the night before the breakfast, and people are still harassing me to get tickets to a sold out event. And I do my best to squeeze them in wherever I can. But it's, I usually come home after some of the events and I'll crash for 4 or 5 hours afterwards because I've, you know, worked so hard in the 24 hours in the lead up to it.
Yeah.
And to a certain degree, the way that I do events is not for everyone. It's very bootstrapped. You know, I pretty much 90% of the work pre-event is, well, probably 99% is me. I have a couple of people who sort of help me on the day, and then the pack up is all me. So I sort of make it really, really lean, you know, on purpose to make it commercially as viable as I can.
Yeah, nice. You have to reach out and let me know. I'll help pack up sometimes, mate. I'm not too far away.
Yeah, down the road.
That's super cool. Have you seen a difference in terms of a free event versus a paid one, or like with attendance and things like that?
Yeah, my current events, you know, most of them I sort of put them as a paid event. But a low cost paid event. So
yeah,
like a breakfast is, you know, 35 Australian dollars, includes a breakfast and a coffee, and then, you know, the networking and the guest speaker. And, you know, in comparison to what else is in the market, which is normally between that sort of $60 to $100 for a similar sort of event, the difference is I just get, like, I sell out every event, whereas sometimes the other companies that do it sort of struggle to get attendance and get the volume of people that I do. That's sort of the giving back to the community is around that aspect of it.
Yeah.
I guess it's really the free event side of things. You know, you'd get maybe 80% attendance.
Yeah.
On a paid event, I probably get 99% attendance.
Yeah, right.
And the follow-up that I do the night before, if someone's paid for a ticket and they can't attend, then I'll try and give away that ticket, because by that point I've already paid the caterers for that ticket anyway. So
yeah, right.
To try and make sure there's no spare spots in the place, and yeah, it makes it work really well.
I guess that's important to note. Like, there's a very tiny commitment there, the 35, and there's a ton of value in exchange. Food, geez, you can't get a loaf of bread for $10 now, but maybe that's an exaggeration. I am a marketer, but that's really important to say. And then, have you sort of seen that, you know, they're more committed. They're not expecting everything for free. They've made an investment to be there. Is that important?
You know, it's to a certain degree. I mean, I've done a couple of free events before where the free ones I've done have all been after our events.
Yeah.
Where we've essentially, you know, had a function center give us the venue for free. You know, had to organize some sponsors for maybe the food, and then the venue, you know, they make money out of the drink sales on the night. And sort of do it that way instead. I've done other events where I've had guest speakers that have subsidized the event. You know, our cost per person for a dinner event, the recent one we did, I think our cost was about $45 was a hard cost on it. The guest speaker subsidized $10 a ticket, so we could still sell it for $35. And then the guest speaker had a chance to promote his service offering at the same time.
Just on the changing feet or shoes a little bit here. Let's say we're the attendee. I'm going to speak generally because not everyone's like this, but generally speaking, when people go to a free event, or, you know, they've been forced to go or they've been asked to go by their employer or something, it can be a sort of a thing like, what's in it for me? If I go and I don't get any deals or any leads, it's been a waste of time. Like, what's the right mentality people should take into going to an event after seeing so many events and seeing so many people do well out of them? Like, what's your advice to people?
I think my biggest piece of advice is go to the event and with an attitude to help people.
Yeah.
Ask people, hey, what's a problem that you have that maybe I can help you with? Offer them some free advice. It's not necessarily what's in it for me, but how can I assist them? And it really comes back to the conversations that you're having on those sort of networking nights. I would say that generally business doesn't get done on the night, and that would be the case. Business is done at a coffee catch up in the future. Business is done in a future conversation. So it's not walking into the room ready to sell something. It's all about getting people to know who you are and what you do, so that there's even an opportunity to do business with them in the future.
Yeah.
What I do that's a little bit different is that I create a list that I send out to everyone the night before, which has their first name, last name, company name, and a link to their LinkedIn URL. And I send that out to everyone so that everyone knows exactly who's going to be in that room the next day. And they've also got the opportunity they can reach out and connect to those people on LinkedIn. Some people will start at the top of the list and work all the way through. Other people will be selective about who they want to connect with. Others will use that as a way to, if they have a conversation with someone, go back, find them on LinkedIn, and then continue that conversation moving forward. Both people obviously have to agree to connect on LinkedIn, but then it gives them an opportunity to continue those chats if they don't have each other's contact details from there.
Yeah, nice. Let's throw a little hairy one at you. I think you can cover this one. Let's say, like, for yourself now, because you've invested so much time, energy, effort, and you've created this expertise in building communities, how you do LinkedIn. Let's try and start back from the start. Let's say we moved to Ipswich. Let's say we moved to the sunny coast where there's no exposure. No one knows who I am because we do all stuff in America. You would be less known. Your home base is here in Toowoomba. How could we start like getting attention and building a community? What would you do?
Yeah, so there'd be a couple of different things that I would tackle from that side of things. I recently had a very similar situation with a guy by the name of Craig Harper, really, really well-known guy based in Melbourne, Australia. If you ask anyone in Melbourne who he was, they would be able to tell you off their bat. Bring him into the Toowoomba. We hired him as a guest speaker in Toowoomba, and for 3 months we sold tickets to the event that we created with him as the guest speaker. And we had to do a lot of work around who he was, what he was, because he didn't have brand recognition locally. So you go into somewhere like Ipswich or Brisbane or something like that, and you create an event. There's multiple different ways that, from a technical point of view, that you can create visibility. You've obviously got a lot of the paid routes, different ads and things like that. You've got LinkedIn has some options around what they call in-mail. In-mail gives you the option to send messages to people you're not directly connected to and start building awareness for the event that you're using through that. You've also got, the ability to connect with a certain number of people in that location every day prior to the event. So if your event's a month or 2 months out, and you're connecting to, say 100 people a week for 2 months, there's 800 people that you can potentially reach out and try and connect to in that location in that time frame. And then once they connect to you, you've got the ability to invite them to a LinkedIn event that you've pre-created, to start to build some awareness for the actual event that you're doing in the future. And then I guess outside of that, it's really around, other, visibility creating things. Could be, trying to get hold of a list of businesses in that particular area that you can market out to, partnering up with different business groups and other sort of strategic sort of partnerships locally within that particular area.
What would be what's a good event people could get started in, just nice and simple? Would it be like a lunch and learn, or what would you do to get started?
When I get started, it was like, does anyone want to have coffee with me on a Friday? Everyone just bought their own coffee and we all sat around a table. And it was, we just basically have 30 people sitting around a table was our first one. I just put out a post. Does anyone want to have coffee with me at lunchtime on Friday? And boom. And at the time, I think the invitation went out to about 200 people.
Yep.
And out of that 200 within that LinkedIn group that I'd created, there was 30 people that actually turned up on the day. And then over time, using sort of event software, we were able to remarket to those people that came to the previous events. We were able to, direct message people on LinkedIn and say, hey, I've got this event. Do you want to come to this one? Or, send them a LinkedIn event invite. Or there was heaps of other ways we could create visibility within multiple platforms. We then started reaching out, and creating posts on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and other platforms, which were all just opportunities to create more visibility.
Yep.
And as well as, we still had our an SMS blast that we would go out as well before each event.
I can see if you guys brought your own coffee while the coffee shop had the shits, just putting that out there.
I think the biggest issue was that, barista coffee just takes time to make.
Yeah.
You start, I thought he'd be thanking me for, putting 30 or 60 people into his coffee shop, but clearly his staff weren't of the same opinion.
Yeah, right.
And, it did take him, 45 minutes to get some people coffee, but
yeah,
everyone was chatting during that time anyway. So we had to move into different formats. So the sort of business after hours sort of style format was the next stage we went to. And I just got lucky. I asked my network, basically, hey, this is the problem I've got. Who can help me solve it? And we had a guy who was the general manager of the Burke and Wills Hotel locally who just said to me, hey, Brendan, I've got a room. I'll give you the room for free. I'll put up a bit of food for you, and everyone just buys their own drinks. And that, would that help? And I said, that would be awesome. And that was event number 3. And, that's what triggered it onwards and upwards from there.
That poor old coffee shop owner. Like, in hindsight, you'd be begging someone to do that. But anyway, he didn't.
Yeah, it's all about scalability. He didn't necessarily, the barista coffees, you can only have a certain amount of $10,000 machine sitting on the table and a certain amount of staff there ready to go.
Could have got a few cakes and sandwiches on the other side of that, but anyway.
Yeah, that's the opportunity for next time.
Yeah. What's next for Brendan Goleby?
I mean, always learning new things. But I think that, the ability to create events in other geographical locations. I did a event series around Australia in the last 2 years where we had 50 events that we put on within a 4-month window. And that was sort of lead generation events for a business coach sort of industry. And I think there's a bit more of that to go. And we'll see. There's heaps of opportunities sitting there ready for me to take a bit of a pick at.
Yeah, nice. If someone wanted to either see your content, connect with you, get some more info about anything we've talked about today, where's the best place people can find you?
Yeah, the best place to find me is on LinkedIn. That's sort of where I'm most active. And the best way to have a conversation and let's chat.
Do they just search your name? Will it come up that way?
Yeah, if you just search Brendan Goleby, BRENDAN, and then Goleby is spelled GOLEBY.
They connect with you, get it going on in the DMs?
That's it. Yeah, we can chat from there. So I'm sure.
Excellent. Well, awesome, my man. Have you got any final words before we let our fellow skull takers go today?
I think the biggest thing to take away from today is that visibility creates opportunity. Find ways to create visibility in your business. Find ways to create visibility within your network, and find those opportunities that will then eventually sort of come from those, and dig deeper into who the people that who they know. That's where the opportunities are all sitting there waiting to be picked.
If you don't do that in 2023, someone else will. So thank you, Brendan. You've been fantastic. You have tremendous hair. And for our fellow skull takers, watch out for the next episode. Cheers.